Hello, everybody. We got Little Queen going on here. I want to be free. I don't want to be free and go to a planet without stupid people. But anyway, it's two queers in a truck. And we're going to have a rocking show tonight. Woo-hoo! How are you doing, Christian? And if you're seeing this right now live, then it is March 30th. Wednesday afternoon, early Wednesday afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in. Maybe morning.
Almost April. Couple
almost
days.
April Fool's Day. Almost April Fool's Day. I mean,
that's right.
We have plenty of April Fools to talk about this on this show. I guess technically this is our April Fool's show, since
that's right.
Next week will be already the first full week of April. So anyway, this is Two Queers in a Truck. And my partner in crime, Christian Cano, Lady Cano, and myself, James Gunn, the troublemaker, and Rabble Ralph, in general, heathen. We have 6 awesome topics, so we'll start with the first one, which is joke around and find out. They're also, everybody that we're going to be mentioning, except for one of them, is going to be our co-jack holes of the week. And if you have missed this topic, you must have been sleeping under a rock or something. I don't know where you were. But yes, the Oscars and the little melee that the two big old queens got into. Or one of them got into it. One was just the receiver. One was the pitcher. And one was the receiver.
That's right.
To go to sexual terms. But anyway.
So that's a good point.
Chris Rock, known comedian and fairly mediocre talent, and host of the Oscars, cracked on Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, a well-known actress in her own right, phenomenal talent, and made fun of her hair and her hairstyle, made a crack. And it is commonly known because she is one of the spokespeople for the foundation that talks and advocates for people with a skin and hair epidural challenge called alopecia. And she suffered with this for a long time. That's why her hair is so short and shaved, is because of the loss of the hair, the damage to the follicles, and all that kind of stuff that she suffered from this horrific disease. And he made a crack about her hair, which in 2022 you should be cracking something like somebody's appearance they can't change, something, but whether they're short, whether they're tall, whether they're suffering from a cruel disease like alopecia, just whatever it is, it just like it's not even funny. Like that's why I called Chris Rock a mediocre talent. He goes for the low hanging fruit and the fruit that's on the ground, because obviously somebody like a Trevor Noah or Wanda Sykes that are way funnier and way more elevated hosts this never would have happened. And a couple of my key points that I didn't talk about on the previous show because we didn't really have time to dedicate to it. It was one, where the fuck was the producers? Where was the security? Like where was the director and producer that could have just cut away when they saw Will Smith coming up on the stage and send in the because that the security team is right there out of camera sight, right behind the curtains, just to have them stand in between Will Smith and Chris Rock and just go, hey, Chris, we need you backstage. Send him into a cab and send him home. Bring out the backup host and just say, Chris got the bubble guts. We send him to home because he mysteriously got sick. Talk to Will Smith. Hey, babe, you can't charge the stage. You can't start the stage. You're fine. Just have a seat, chill down, have a Coke and a smile. Drink them if you got them. But to me, the biggest jackhole in this whole thing, besides idiot Chris Rock, that's been warned all 2 to 3 days before this, every day for the 2 to 3 days before that thing aired in the different dress rehearsals. I said, you need to cool it with the personal jokes, you need to cool it with the demeaning humor. It's not funny. This is the first kind of almost post-pandemic Oscars. And, it's time. It's time to get away from that type of crap that him and so many other tasteless idiot comedians are saying, just like the whole trans controversy with what's his face. he's so insignificant to me, I can't remember his name. But anyway, that type of humor is not, it should be off limits, especially in an elevated, the most well-known award show in the entertainment industry that has over 1 billion viewers. I think it's viewed in like 40 or 50 countries. Like, it's a big event. It's the Super Bowl of its deal. And one, the professionalism of the director, the producer, the security team, an absolute fail. Chris Rock, you're an absolute jackhole, and just you don't need to be on a stage like that. There's too many other comedians of color, hosts of color, that would easily be more talented. I would love to see a Trevor Noah in that spot. I'd love to see a Trevor Noah and a Wanda Sykes co-host together. Like, oh my gosh, that would be like a dream team for me. And they're way more talented and funnier than him, because Trevor Noah can be funny but not attack somebody's looks or anything like that. I just think that's a place you just don't go anymore in modern America.
That's very, very good points, Jen. I completely agree with you. I would agree with you in that it was inappropriate. I agree. It was inappropriate for him to make those jokes at that event. So would he make the same joke at a board meeting of Bank of America and say the same joke about their CEO's wife that was sitting next to the CEO's wife?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Or in a private nightclub.
Yeah.
If it was like a roast format.
Exactly.
Like a Comedy Central, and it was intended to be a roast.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And let's say it wasn't, she didn't have her hair that way because of alopecia. Let's just say that she just likes her hair high and tight, which is so acceptable.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or maybe she filmed a military documentary or some kind of, okay, that may have been moderately fine, but everybody knows, because she's been very public about this. And most of all, you and I both have had similar careers. And one of the things you teach your employees, such as you see a woman that may have a baby bump. Now, we don't know if it's a baby or a food baby.
Yes.
But you never assume that they're pregnant.
Exactly.
And here's why. Because if they're not pregnant, you go, well, how far along are you? Are you excited about the baby? And they go, no, I'm just fat. You just put yourself in a really awkward position. So let's give Chris the benefit of the doubt that he didn't know. That I don't know how he would know, know. But let's just say, for example, he did not know Jada had that condition.
Yeah.
At the very least, why would you gamble on that with a billion-person audience in the most
exactly?
Why go there?
Yeah.
Well, you got hours of stuff to talk about, and there's so many other funnier topics. You could have done a Ukraine joke. You could have done a I don't know, a COVID joke. I mean, there's a million jokes. There's hey, welcome back. We had a Miss Rona break for 2 years, and it's good to see all of you. I mean, anything more clever than that. You've been on Saturday Night Live, dude. Like, you've been doing stand-up for decades. You're not new to this. You're not new to entertainment. Like,
so Jen, what do you think of the, because this has been a problem, and I thought about on our other show, Calvin and Pendusa, having a show entitled How Comedians Ruin Comedy.
Yeah.
And because we have gotten to a point where it's Dave Chappelle, whether it's the guy from London, whoever, I don't even, he's on Netflix and he said, whatever he said, whether it's Chris Rock, and to many extent, even Kathy Griffin, or Griffith, I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Griffin, yeah.
We get to a point when they say something that's offensive, they immediately say, well, it's comedy, and this is it's equivalent to what Christians say when they do something wrong and they're forgiven because they go to church or whatever. It's like that's a pass.
A hypocritical double standard.
Yeah,
is disguising their own misogyny or homophobia or transphobia or whatever their bigotry is
under comedy. It's just comedy, so we can say anything.
You're old enough to remember Jimmy the Greek and why he got fired off broadcasting.
Exactly.
And
good point.
He tried to hide or cover his racism when he said, well, watch that monkey run. and he was talking about a black running back of color that was running really fast and scored this touchdown. And he said, "Look at that." I think he either said, "Look at that little monkey run," or something along those lines. And of course, he immediately got suspended off CBS, and they were debating on whether to bring him back. And there was a big controversy about bringing him back. And they finally made, through a lot of public pressure of the NAACP and many other people, said, "You bring him back, the NFL's probably going to pull a contract from CBS." And so the ultimate deal is that Jimmy the Greek pushed out of broadcasting forever, as he should have. He made an insanely racist comment, then doubled down by saying, "Oh, I just say little monkey or monkey all the time." And obviously, he never said it about a white player. So,
Exactly.
and this is different from the fact that it was a comedian and it was a deal, but the inappropriate deals. And Chris Rock has a history of that, as many of these other problematic comedians do. And we have to get to a point where, what is our standards? What is our standards? And Will Smith too. It's also not acceptable in 2022 to go up on stage and assault somebody.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
January 6th should have taught us that. George Floyd's murder on camera should have taught us that no level of violence, no matter what your position, whether it's verbal violence like Chris Rock, because I consider what he did to Jada verbal violence, or physical violence, especially being a man of color, should hold himself to a standard that he preaches all the time and talks about his tolerance for, his LGBT kids and all this.
Yeah.
And if we're going to ask for nonviolence, then we have to practice it in our lives. And we shouldn't just expect that from the police. We shouldn't just expect that from all deal. But dude, you can't go up and even though the slap was slightly funny, and we all go, Chris Rock has a very slappable face.
He almost slapped us for America. Will Smith.
Wrong place, wrong time, wrong message. And most of all, took the message away from the suffering of Black women in this country.
Exactly. Yeah.
They get abused from every side. And it's that moment. Let's say that Chris Rock got that joke on the ear, and shut down the show real quick, got him off the stage, got Will back in his seat, and came back. That should have been a moment of healing. They should have pulled Jada up on the stage if she wanted to do a quick PSA about what she's going through.
That's a good point. I never thought. Yeah, that's excellent.
And Will should have used his acceptance speech instead of trying to figure out how to apologize or work around what he did. It should have been dedicated to uplifting Jada and all Black women. And that's how I feel about it. And Will slapped him out of ego instead of intelligence. And it's one of the biggest mistakes he's probably ever made in his life. I hope he's learned from it. And hopefully we all move on. But we learned something from this. Topic number 2.
There's another topic?
Yeah, we have another topic. We can't do a whole show just on the Oscars, unfortunately, even though it is a fascinating topic because it hits so many different subjects. Get your little greedy hands off that foreign money. Congressman Jeff Fortenberry, a Republican.
Oh, yeah.
Well, is resigning from Congress officially this week on 3/31/2022. So he will.
Yeah.
He convicted on lying to the FBI about being funded by foreign billionaires. Wonder if any of them speak Russian. But anyway, he is convicted. He did have to walk away. I think there'll be more of this kind of stuff happening pretty soon.
Yeah.
Because they did also. There's been several articles that have been revived from the last few years about the Russian spy and the almost 70 million plus they've lost track through that was funneled through the NRA and money laundering, and then mysteriously to Republican candidates running for Congress. This also probably going to get some traction and may have come back to life because of this Jeff Fortenberry scandal and trial and all that. What do you think about it? I mean, first of all, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of Russian money that's been floating through the NRA and to candidates like Jeff Fortenberry. I know if I was a Democrat and I ran against any of those candidates that get busted for this, I'd be livid. I would be livid, because one, it's illegal, and two, it just, how did that get missed? You missed that.
I think this may have been the first time this may have been the first time where Speaker Pelosi and Minority Leader, what's his name?
Right.
McCarthy,
McCarthy.
It was the first time they ever agreed. They both said that he should resign.
Yeah.
And it was I think it was the first time ever. That actually should make news.
Yeah. Lightning should have struck Capitol Hill when that happened, because that may not ever happen again.
Yeah.
But of course, he had to resign, or they were going to remove him, so he actually didn't really. They allowed him to resign before the hatchet came. So
sure.
It's kind of one of those things like, hey, dude, you're a deep doo-doo. You've already been convicted.
Because they would have had the votes to vote him out. And it would have been.
And I'm not even sure. I probably was part of the plea bargain. I'm sure there was a plea bargain cut. He probably won't. I don't know if he's been sentenced yet. But
he's appealing.
I'm assuming that obviously he should step down.
Well, what McCarthy said, which I thought it was the first time I actually heard something like rational from McCarthy. And and he usually says something so partisan that it's just so unintelligible. Right. What he said was, someone with a felon who's been convicted of a felon should not be in Congress. They should resign. And he said, and he can appeal this, which is his right as a private citizen. And so basically, he was basically saying, you know what, appeal everything you want to do, but not in Congress. Yeah. And that to me, that's logical. Well, because if Marjorie Taylor Greene had done this, he would have said, well, she should stay in Congress or she's appeals.
Right. Well, that temporary case of integrity that he fell into obviously has probably a lot to do with the fact that the FBI have. Usually when the FBI pursues something, I think they have like a 95 or 96% success rate. So obviously the FBI doesn't take every missing dog case and thing like that. They take only the most relevant federal cases that violate either election laws or the money laundering on a national level or international level. So they're only taking the most serious cases that have a federal jurisdiction, hate crimes, things of that nature. So clearly, I'm sure the guy saw the light. He probably cut some kind of deal to keep him out of prison.
Yeah, there must have been really bad evidence that we're not aware of that McCarthy's privy to, and he said, you know what, I don't care. We can't drag this on y'all. This is too bad. So
especially in the midterm. So obviously the other thing is too. If
he didn't want him to maybe lose in the midterm,
doing this really quiet exit that didn't really get much traction in the news cycle. In fact, I saw very few people post about it that I follow that definitely would love to see a Republican leave. Main because it's in Nebraska and it'll be another Republican replacing him, and two. Obviously, with all the intensity of the news cycle in the Ukraine, I don't know. This did not get a lot of traction.
I only saw it. Yeah,
too. Yeah, I saw it. There was not. It was a very short news cycle, and in fact, if I'd have blinked, I probably would have missed it. Mm-hmm. But I happened to see a commentator kind of made that same thing. Like, why aren't we talking about this more? Like it. And the only thing I can think of is just people's bandwidth. There's only there's so much. We have so much coming out of COVID right now. I think people just can only absorb so much. And there's so many topics to talk about. I mean, even without the Will Smith, slap, and without, there's plenty of red meat to put in our news cycle. But that is our signal that our second segment is over, and we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us on Two Queers in a Truck. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime at your leisure on our video podcast platforms like Facebook and YouTube. But you can also listen to us, either this show or any of our past shows, on our audio podcast platforms like Apple Amazon, Google, Spotify, and all of the other ones. So once again, thank you for watching Two Chords in a Truck. I hope you enjoy our show.
And we are back. And our next topic is we're still going to say we're gay. And on Monday of this week, homophobic, closeted, snowflake, Death DeSantis signed the bill. Made it into law, the Don't Say Gay, which applies to the whole LGBT community in all of Florida's public schools. It's one of probably the most ridiculous pieces of, I can't even call it a law or a bill. It's a hate crime that's state sanctioned, and let's just call it what it is. It's targeting a specific community that you can't even talk about. Jennifer and her two moms, or like if you even just mention any of the LGBTQIA identities, you're going to get in all kinds, I guess, of verbal police or so whatever. I don't even know what like, it's so bizarre you can't, because there's so many things even in elementary school. And I just got on a Twitter battle with somebody that was
a Twitter slap fight.
That was a Twitter slap fight, a cat fight, and this idiot conservative mouth breather was saying, well, it isn't inappropriate to talk about, gay sex to a third grader. And I'm going, yeah, but this is not going to prevent that. Okay. So if a kid is talking about gay sex to another kid, this law is not going to change that. What it is going to do is it's going to dampen the ability for a teacher or a counselor to explain that it's inappropriate, or that is just what happens between two men, or so what has happened is it's taken the school administration, including your teachers and your para teachers and all those people. They can't help educate the kids about anything LGBT. Is what it's done is it's taken the experts in education out of the equation. And once again, we're just going to let kids fend for themselves. So how they're going to learn about all this is through their idiot peers, which we all know how self-education works, don't we? Like if self-education actually worked, then why do we hire teachers? Why do we build these buildings? Like, we should just let them stay home and they can educate themselves. We'll see how that works. What kind of hillbilly logic is that? And sexuality and sexual diversity and gender diversity is as old as humankind itself. You're never not going to talk about that, even if the kid's not gay, even if the parents aren't gay, even if their neighbors aren't gay. These subjects come up because kids are curious little creatures. And typically it's just about, well, why are those two guys holding hands? Why do you have two moms? Or the kid reads a book report about their vacation to Daytona Beach over spring break and then says, yeah, me and my two moms. And they're like, wait, two moms, what's that? And if they're super, super young, to second, third, fourth grade, they may not even know what, having two moms would even be like. And it's nothing about what they do in the bedroom. It's just the fact that two loving people, both of the same gender, decided to get married, and it's just a bizarre that I don't know what you call it. Do you call it fascism? Do you just call it idiocy?
Fascism. Yeah, obviously it's one of them. It's once again, it's hypocritical. It's exactly what Republicans complain about with when we had COVID. The government shouldn't be telling us what to do, and all that kind of it's hypocritical. But to me, the most interesting thing about this is on the last show, on the Confident Producer show, we've been talking about this before. We always say how Republicans are good at messaging, but they're terrible at their platform. And Democrats are terrible at their messaging, but we have great, platforms and so forth. And I always joke, I used to always joke about the people who run the social media accounts for Ted Cruz, and all of them must be like closeted gay guys who just, I got
you, girl. I got you.
Yes, exactly. Watch this comeback. Watch
but there
this.
Is some truth. There is some
no,
truth.
Exactly. So, but this proves it, in my view. DeSantis, there's reports that DeSantis has been really upset because the LGBT community immediately messaged this as the Don't Say Gay bill. And it caught on so well that he's upset that it caught on, and he's used to being the person who messages it, like Trump used to do. And so, and you can't, once it catches on, you can't take Don't Say Gay away. And of course, they've been trying so hard to explain this bill is not really a Don't Say Gay. This bill is, inappropriate stuff for young people. And this is, so all that messaging is going to, so it proved that when gay people get creative or whatever, because we're so used to doing these kind of things, we can come up with those things, which what I've said. So then you wonder, well, how do Republicans come up with these things? It's because they've got gay people running their campaigns and running they're like these yeah, they're all like, oh, let's stay woke. How about woke? Cancel culture. That's it. Let's come up with cancel culture. Girl, I canceled you. And so it is being tossed back in their face. And I do think as we get like towards the summer, and I know he sounded this week on Monday, right? Officially, the bill. I think you're going to have other things coming out where people are just going to say gay, 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 gay. I know that there's some groups that are buying these billboards all over their capital and all over Orlando. They're going to say gay loud, say gay, gay. And so when we go to Key West, we'll be saying gay a lot.
No, not in Key West.
That's right.
Isn't that where all those great people go? But anyway, yeah, no, it's the West Hollywood of Florida for sure.
Yes,
but it's just bizarre that you would hamstring school officials, because that's what the bill's really about is removing the ability to even have discussions and things that will pop up when you're in a school system. It's inevitable that something about sexuality or something about gender is always going to come up. It came up when we were kids, and it's just something that's part of our culture. It's never going away, because LGBT people are not going away. Number 4 is spring has sprung, and it almost feels like we're going through a reboot and starting 2020 all over again. And I say that because I went to 2 events over the weekend, 2 different kinds of events. We have 2 Charlotte Prides in this city. We have regular Charlotte Pride, and we have Charlotte Black Pride. And Charlotte Black Pride, if I can even be able to speak, had a kickoff event in the northern part of the city at a local brewery, a really beautiful place. They rolled out the red carpet. It was great opening Pride season, welcome back from the pandemic type deal. And it was really about healing and coming together and seeing each other without masks on and the whole 9 yards, and just kind of a celebration of life that, hey, if you're at this party, you made it to the other side of the pandemic. And then I went to an ID9 political thing that was designed to be a spree cleaning and kind of a kumbaya and cleanse yourself of all your burdens that you carried the last 2 years. And it was pretty cool. It was actually very enjoyable. It was very pleasant. It was very not intended to do the same old candidate forums and things like that. It was really just more of a togetherness to say, we appreciate you. We appreciate you keeping coming back to the meetings. They did it outdoors, this cute little farm thing in Union County. And it was really adorable. It was very well done. A lot of healing, and both were kind of this healing, like almost like we've had a reset in the last 2 years, hey, are behind us. So we're starting the 2020s all over again. And I'm kind of getting that feeling from a lot of people, and even TV and even, podcasts are talking about, hey, now we're really starting the roaring 20s all over again. And people are excited that COVID has become more controlled and less out of control. Like we've gotten the wildfire down to a small little embers here and there, and it's not as scary, and it's not going to burn down my house anytime soon. And do you feel, Christian, that same thing? Are you noticing it in the places you go to, in the areas when you do go in person to a place? How do you see the people are viewing this?
I don't know. I mean, it really just feels like we attended a funeral of a neighbor of ours, his husband, who passed away, caught a breakthrough case of COVID, was fully vaxxed, fully boosted, and the person caught a breakthrough case of COVID and passed away about 2 weeks ago. And it was a reminder that for some people, this may not be over for much longer. And those of us who are vaxxed and maybe not have some of the underlying symptoms that maybe other people do or whatever, it feels like now we're going into post-COVID. Even though it hasn't been officially called an endemic, it feels like everyone's kind of acknowledging it is. And so it is kind of, it's similar to how I felt, if I remember correctly, during the AIDS crisis. We were so afraid. And then there was like 97, 98, we felt a little bit more comfortable. They were doing cocktails and all kinds of stuff. And people were not dying immediately and so forth. So you felt like, we've gotten through it. But at the same time, there were still people who were being impacted. So it feels, I want it to be an endemic like the flu. But reality is, I know this is going to be around like HIV. Right. You're always going to have to be careful. You're always going to, I hope they approve this other booster, the fourth booster, because I will go out and get the booster.
Officially, I think it officially passed last week for certain classes of people.
Okay.
I do know for sure the age one. I think if you're 55 and up, got approved last week.
Okay.
But they're going, and I think if you're immunocompromised, I'm pretty sure those two categories for sure passed. The universal fourth booster is not approved yet. If you're not in those classes, the approved classes, obviously you would have to pay for it, and you might as well wait, because studies are showing that even with the second version of the Omicron, the BA2, that's spreading across Europe, that the 3-shot, if you are double vaxxed and boosted, that they're holding well, that the new version of Omicron, it is spreading a little faster, but it's definitely, the mortality and hospitalizations are not spiking in the vaccinated population. Unless, of course, you have, like your neighbor had some underlying conditions that just couldn't be helped. And it's probably one of the reasons why they were triple vaxxed. But anyway, we are going on to our next topic. But before we do that, we're going to do a slight break before we go to topic number 5.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching us on Two Queers in a Truck. Don't forget, you can watch us anytime at your leisure on our video podcast platforms like Facebook and YouTube. But you can also listen to us, either this show or any of our past shows, on our audio podcast platforms like Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and all of the other ones. So once again, thank you for watching Two Queers in a Truck. I hope you enjoy our show.
Here we are back. This is how you say you're racist or misogynist, bigot, without saying it. And I
want to hear this one.
The absolute, it's getting to the point where it's not even getting surprising anymore. Like when Lindsey Graham talks, I just picture a white hood or a SWAT sticker on his arm or something, because they're just not even hiding it anymore. And the way they treated Judge Jackson and her process of the questions they asked her last week in the hearings for the SCOTUS appointment, this was a combination of just stupid, asinine things, stuff that doesn't even have anything to do with being a Supreme Court justice, like how often you go to church, and just these bizarro. How she kept her composure without just going, I'm not going to even answer that. I'm not going to even answer. Like at some point, I just wanted her to stand up and go, if you're going to ask any more stupid questions that have nothing to do with my qualifications, even though she has better qualifications, more time on the bench, more prestigious appointments than any of the three Trump appointees, like combined. Like we clearly know why. One, she's black, and two, she's a woman. And so the questions from all the Republican senators either came from a space of misogyny or racism, and disguised as, well, we don't really want an activist jurist, deal. And I'm like, well, what was Barrett? What was other, that they don't want an activist type judge. They don't want.
But Jenny, don't you think, just like what we were talking about on our last show, the Coffee and Producing, that activist judge is code for we don't want a black judge, because
exactly.
they don't have a problem with activist judge like Kavanaugh or a pro-life kind of person or whatever.
Yeah.
And so
are pro-death.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a pro-death or a pro, racism, pro-redlining judge, a pro, anything conservative, authoritarian, wacko stuff,
But here, I have a question, Jenny, and I'm trying to be a little glass full here. Don't you think also one of the things that we saw last week during all the hearings and so forth, we saw, and we probably won't notice it for like another year or 2 years when historians look back, we saw America tipping. All of those comments from Lindsey Graham and the theatrics from Ted Cruz, it upset us. It was a different type of upset. It was like an annoying, pestilent child upsetness. We're now in a time where there are a majority of Americans that go, all right, and we're at that tipping point now. And I don't think that I've ever seen that before, where when you saw Anna Navarro, what's her name? She was on the one lady who does on The View periodically.
Right.
She posted a meme of the judge with her eyes kind of like that. She also posted a meme of two other black women, eyes like that. And it said, this is the look of a woman of color who's had to put up with, I'm paraphrasing what she said, but had to put up with like obnoxious white guys, racist white guys their entire life. And they just have to do it with class, and it was almost like, there's this look that we put up with it. And the reason we put up with it, because we know it's a waiting game. And for the first time, I was upset, but I was also like, they're becoming less relevant. And that was like a tipping point. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, I think we realize how much they're flailing around and screaming. I think it's coming more and more obvious because they did that in 2020.
Yeah.
And their cult leader got fired. As much wild accusations and craziness, and called Biden a pedophile, and
Kamala, and
just and in bed with the Ukraine, and just every wild accusation that these wackos always do. But the thing is, it didn't stick. And the thing is that 81 million people said, no, what we got right now is terrible.
So what do you think? Hey, Jen, what do you think about that? Today I was watching the news, and it's completely off the subject. I apologize. What do you think that apparently some latest poll says that Biden is his lowest numbers. He's got like the lowest numbers in presidential history.
Well,
what do you think about that?
I think, first of all, who did they poll?
Yeah, of course. Okay.
The thing with all the popularity numbers, for one, they're very fickle. It's also, too, what the cross section was. Like, was it just the press? They did a press poll? Did they do an AP Wire poll? Did they do an actual? Did they just poll people in Texas and Alabama, or did they poll all persuasions of voting, or did they just poll Democrats? Did they just poll Republicans? What was the age areas? Because a lot of these polls, and I saw a really good Wall Street Journal article a few months ago that said, be careful about polls and popularity, because in general, a lot of them are very skewed because the demographic is so tight on the poll. Like who did they poll? Was it, a conservative Baptist college that they just went around with a reporter and just, in scientifically poll the people there, and they got 60 college kids that are all going to the Southern Baptist, very conservative religious school. Well, of course, they're not going to lie. They're already going to have a bias. And so some polls have a built-in bias that no matter what is said about a progressive person versus, let's say, the other way, many times Trump said, well, my numbers are pretty good, but who did you poll? Who did you ask? Because some people didn't like you from the beginning. So it really depends on the demographic and the cross section. Because I've seen other articles that have been counter to that Biden's gotten a lot of bumps about how he's handled Ukraine, how, and things of that nature. So it again, things like gas prices, for example, can have any president drop in popularity. But the last subject this is Transgender Day of Visibility Week. That is always the March 31st of every year. So it literally is tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Different days of just different commemorations during the week. Here locally, there is a T-Dove celebration, and you will see it all over the country. And so if you see things that are talking about transgender visibility on the Google machine or the Book of the Face or anything like that, that's what they're referring to. So it is a bookended celebration on this end. In the spring, it's called T-Dove, Transgender Day of Visibility. In the fall, it's a memorial for all the trans people that have been murdered in hate crimes, which is called Transgender Day of Remembrance, TDOR. And it's on November 20th or in or around November 20th. And now multiple countries, including the United States, where we commemorate the people that have been slain for just living their truth. But one of the reasons I bring up T-Dove is because there has been, in the last couple of years, a lot of talk about transgender athletes, whether they're in grade school and how different states are trying to ban grade school kids. We just had that debate in Utah where the Republican governor of Utah actually vetoed the ban on transgender kids playing sports because he said, for a lot of reasons. For one, banning transgender kids from sports and pushing them away from society. He says sports include a lot of people, that sports makes you feel together with your classmates. And I don't want to be the government that drives up transgender youth suicide. He said it's not the responsible thing to do. He said another thing is, in our whole school system in the entire state of Utah, we only have 5 transgender athletes. Out of those 5 transgender athletes, only one of them's a girl. So I would be signing into law something that only applies to 5 people in the entire state of Utah. And so he hit it right on the head. He hit some of the talking points that many of us have said, is that a lot of this is a much ado about nothing. It's setting people hair on fire that some scary transgender Godzilla is coming to your community and is going to tear down your bathrooms and carry kids away and or make them gay or whatever the crazy thing is. In fact, one of the trolls I was talking to on the Twitter today was talking about how, as a community, we're trying to convert kids to being gay. They actually tried to make this article. And he had a picture, several pictures of this one Pride event where these guys were dressed up in these kind of leather skimpy costumes, and they were doing puppy play. They were little puppy costumes. Now that all their genitalia was covered up, you could see their cherry chest, and you could see outlines of things, but there was no. I've seen worse at beaches, like way worse. In family beaches at lakes, I'd be like way worse. And he said, well, that's not true. And I said, no. If you want to see sexual activity, you just go to a church camp. And he got really upset. I said, yeah, well, there was one in Missouri where there was this one camp counselor that was grooming boys and having hot tub orgies for a decade and a half till he got sentenced to prison. And it was a church camp. It was a Christian camp. So I said, if you want to worry about grooming and pedophilia, you need to turn inward. You need to look at your own community. I said, second, he seemed really obsessed about the LGBT community, and he had a lot of photos of our prides. I said, anybody who's that obsessed, do you need to say anything? Is it time for you to come on out? Like, why do you have all these scantily clad, leather clad gay men? Really good looking ones too, but he had some primo pics of prides. I'm like, I tell you what, on my iPad right now, I do not have tons of pictures of scantily clad heterosexual people, especially straight men. I don't have like a big old deal or some kind of like this whole tickler file of worship leaders,
Sure,
mostly straight dudes. Like, I find it very bizarre that he said how gross it made him feel, but he had a cachet.
So what did he say?
Some of the best gay pics
Sure,
I've seen. Like I'm telling you, he didn't quite have an answer for that. In fact, he stopped talking because, as we know, the guilty always
exactly.
And another interesting arguments come up. You know, of course, there's the Tia, the University of Pennsylvania swimmer that just won a medal and a deal, even though she lost badly in the other 4 events that she competed in, but they only focus on the one she did win.
Yeah.
And then you compare it to Caster Semenya, which is a Olympian world-class athlete that's a cis woman. And she got disqualified for like the 400, the 800, and the 1500 because she has elevated naturally occurring testosterone. Because women, cis women, their endocrinology, they can produce both high levels of testosterone and estrogen. And she has naturally high occurring testosterone. Or a swimmer like Michael Phelps also has a ton of naturally occurring high levels of testosterone, and that never got debated. So you don't you don't ever hear if a cis man like a Michael Phelps, that one was extraordinarily tall, you know, 6'7", and that's another knock they have on trans. Oh, they're so tall. Cis women can't compete against us. But we don't hear that 6'7" Michael Phelps had an unfair advantage and all that 8-foot wingspan, and he flew through the water in the Olympics, or that he had elevated testosterone because it was naturally occurring. It was not injectables. But yet, a cis woman fights that same misogyny. She got disqualified for events, even though she had naturally high T. And then you see somebody like Tia that has lower than her teammates amounts of testosterone because of suppressant drugs. But she actually has less testosterone than her cis counterparts.
Sure.
And so these weird double and triple standards and how they made it so complicated, that's why a lot of transgender female athletes on the Olympic and world-class levels can't compete, because they're so bound by the higher than normal standards for medical eligibility. Yeah, to Michael Phelps, you don't hear anything about it. You don't hear any men go, he's got too much testosterone, or he's got too long a wingspan. There should be 6'5" and up categories for swimmers, and then shorter swimmers should be in their own category. You don't ever hear that, but they'll suggest the same thing and say, well, trans people need to be in their own special category.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, well, so should LeBron James be in his own kind of league? Should a Michael Jordan have been in his own special league? So should we put the super athletes in a small, tiny little zoo-like little special league, you know, and then the rest of the really world-class athletes, but they're just, you know, that next level down, you know, they're like they're not a Carl Lewis, they're not a super elite athlete, but they're an elite athlete. Well, the regular ones, they get, it's almost like they're going, well, we don't like participation trophies, except for when it comes to LGBT people. Then we don't want them winning anything. We don't want any of those trans people or gay men or anything winning anything in society. And that's really what it comes down to. And that's why events like Transgender Day of Visibility are so important, to talk about the hypocritical, unscientific, idiotic mouth breather conversations when they clearly don't even understand science, sports, or the idea of competition. And it's okay every once in a while if a trans girl or a trans woman actually wins something. It only happens about once every 150,000 events. You know, it's so rare, it doesn't even hardly ever happen. And when it does, it's okay if they compete. Just let them play. It's just stupid. It's just like any other version of bigotry. It's just stupid.
I know we're at time, but just two quick things. When Marjorie Taylor Greene said that this last weekend or whatever, that men were, I forget a stupid thing that she said, something about men are becoming women to replace women, real women, or something to that effect. Yeah. It was an attack. It was a slam on transgender people or whatever the case would be. They're like taking transgender women, but she calls them men. Men. Yeah. It's kind of like that. Whatever. When she said that, my first response was the catty response was, "Boo." So you're afraid that these men, these transgender women who used to be men, are going to be better women than you, even though you've been a woman your entire life. Right. And that it's like, it's the same thinking when people say, well, I don't want those immigrants coming over and taking our jobs. So you're afraid of this person who just got to this country 2 weeks ago is going to take your job when you've been here your whole life. I mean, it's like, I know that's not humorous, but just it's like the insecurity of someone saying that.
But the lack of logic, it's like they don't listen to their own bullshit that they spit out of their mouth.
Exactly.
And if you just stop and slow down what they say for a second and then repeat it back to them, they even realize how stupid it sounds. Like,
I had that conversation, Jen.
Nobody. And I can just tell you, as somebody that is going through transgender medicine and transitioning, and have so many friends, through my advocacy that have gone through it, and I'm telling you, especially if you could do the medical part of it, nobody would do it to compete in a different gender category in sports. Let me tell you something. There's a reason why they call it transitioning. And because it is a brutal mind body. It's like a 15-round fight, 24 hours a day on what it does to you physically, mentally. It's equivalent to going through a second puberty. And if you remember any day of your days of your first puberty, how brutal that was, but then still try to adult, still try to occupy the same spaces you occupied before and hold it together and not just be flipping out all the time, but still have the emotional range of a teenager, especially in that first 6 months of the year. Nobody in their right mind would do that unless it was real. So, it's one of the most bizarrest lines of logic. Oh, Leah Thomas was not that good of a swimmer competing against men.
Yes.
But she was also a high school swimmer that was just going into college when she transitioned. So you're comparing somebody that was pre-college on the national level that was now a senior. I'm going, well, yeah, she might have been 500, but she was also like 17 or 18. Now that she's 21 or 22, I'm going to say that the cis women that were pre-college, if you put them up against a senior, we're not going to be competitive. And they've been on estrogen all their life. It has nothing to do with, you're going to progress quite a bit in 4 years. just like I played athletics and competitive sports for 17 years. And the athlete I was when I was a freshman in high school compared to a senior in high school was not even comparable in just 4 short years of training and all that. And it also discredits the fact that some people want to just say, well, Michael Jordan was just naturally athletic, which completely discounts the fact that he probably worked out countless. He took thousands of jump shots a day. He worked on his craft. So his work ethic had nothing to do with him being a world-class athlete. And what we're really saying for, just like we said in another show, well, it's because he's black, and we all know black men are more athletic than white men. And which is a load of crap. discounting his journey, his efforts, his whatever he overcame to be a world-class, amazing basketball player that arguably was the best player ever. Of course, he had nothing to do with it. He was just actually gifted. I'm going, well, you've never played sports before.
Yeah. It's
just bizarre.
We'll get through it.
Yeah, and a lot of things do give me hope because so many people, no matter what their political ideology, do not buy into that. And it's been a proven fact, even here in North Carolina in 2016 when the bathroom bill passed here, 70% of North Carolinians supported the transgender community. And so we know, and we saw with the election of Biden over Trump, we know most people have enough sense to know what the right thing is to do. And so I do bet on the fact that we have enough Americans and enough neighbors who could hear something and go, that's just stupid. That's just stupid. Nobody would transition to compete in sports. Nobody, gay people can't convert people into being gay. We don't have any kind of magical fairy dust. Like me and you can't go into some mall and give everybody gabies, like they're not going to catch it like COVID. Also, they're going to come out singing show tunes. And
so hey, Jen, one last thing, because I know we need to close down, but about that Don't Say Gay bill that we were talking about.
Yeah.
The one thing I forgot to mention was that at the end of the day, haters will always be outmaneuvered one way or another. Especially marginalized communities have learned we have to fight to live. We've had to, and many people, some people maybe don't have to anymore, but most people, who had to fight, they learned how to work around. So with this being passed in Florida, what I hope happens is that LGBTQ parents or parents with transgender kids or parents or whatever, that they read the bill as closely and fine-tuned, and they start filing lawsuits against these school districts, because that's one of the provisions, that a parent is allowed to sue the school district within 37 days of bringing up a complaint about something. So every little comment that's taught in elementary school, if they even mention Jack and Jill, that's a sexual thing, because it's a boy and a girl. And it's just a heterosexual relationship. They need to ban that. They need to sue them if you don't correct it. It needs to be overwhelmed with litigation that you realize how stupid it is. So that way, if anyone even mentions Christmas, which is a Christian holiday, that needs to be sued. Every little thing needs to be, I think needs to be, and even to the extent I think that it needs to be so crazily done that it just clogs the system. And I hope that's what happens. I'd be interested to see if the groups in Florida, like Equality Florida or whatever, if they're Lambda or whatever, if
ACLU.
ACLU, because that's how you make it unconstitutional, is it gets so crazy that it backfires on it. And anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in there.
I think there'll be a lot of parents groups that'll just go, well, we can talk about it off campus. And now one of the advantages of going through a pandemic is we learned how to pivot and adapt to doing virtual meetings. They can do all kinds of virtual meetings. They can go to parks. They can go, it's Florida. The weather's usually pretty good. So they can go out and they can meet, moms groups especially are usually pretty crafty. Especially progressive moms, just like
the ones that we had. Yeah, that's right.
They're pretty crafty little devils. And
they sure are.
Tell you something, when some idiot like DeSantis comes up with something, I mean, never ever underestimate the power of the female brain and figure out how to overcome the male brain, which usually happens.
Yes.
Throughout history, it's happened all the time.
That's right.
And so I love the fact that there will be tons of good kinds of mischief and treachery going on in Florida. And ultimately, him signing that thing is what's going to make him lose in the fall.
I
That will
believe
be.
I think that's going to be his HB2.
I think of course, that'll unite the Democratic Party.
I hope
but
so.
I also think moderate Republicans will go anything to be this guy. Like this guy's
exactly. Yeah,
he's taking us down with us, and he barely won last time by like 40,000 votes. I don't think he's got a chance in hell of getting reelected. And I think stuff like this and what Governor Abbott did in Texas, I think is going to torpedo. I think you're going to have 2 new governors.
I hope so.
And I hope so too. For Florida and Texas to say, especially those 2 states.
Yep.
But anyway, we are at the end of our time. In fact, we had a little overtime. We got a little extra mileage there, because bigger is always better. But anyway, this was another edition of 2
Amen.
Absolutely. Size does matter. But anyway, we love you guys. Hope you stay safe. Don't engage any crazies out there and just have fun.
I want to break free.
What a perfect.
I know. I love this song too.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Hey, we're still on, but I just want to say, have you seen this video?
Yeah.
Okay, so I had never seen this video before, and for Queen, and the video, he is dressed as a woman, and he's vacuuming, and he wants to break free, and it is like, and you didn't know he was gay. I mean, it's a great video. Anyway.
Well, Freddie Mercury was an artist.
Not that would make someone gay. I'm just saying is that, it was, of course, now we look back and you go, God, just that video in itself, he was being himself. He was just being.
Yeah. Well, Freddie Mercury was so ahead of his time, like compared to his contemporaries. Like he was, that's probably why he rose to fame so fast. And Prince was the same way. And
Prince,
was so different and so ahead of his time that even now, if those 2 guys were born again and they came out and were performing now in their 20s or 30s now, they would still be at the top of the chart. Like these we
got to end the show.
Oh, I thought we already went off the air.
No, I was.
I even stopped the music.
Bye,
That's
y'all.
Hilarious. Bye, y'all. Hey, y'all. Thanks for watching 2 Queers in a Truck. Happy spring. Happy coming out of COVID, I guess. And most of all, be free. And be
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.